Hey guys, this is Mr. Oxy coming at you live from Palm Beach in Florida. It is Saturday. It is December the 17th, just a week away from the big holidays in the United States and Canada and perhaps in most of the Western world. A preemptive happy holiday to all of you. And I hope the next couple of weeks in December brings us better luck and joy and good fortune than the previous 2 weeks or so. Sometimes I open my videos with one Maserati, two Maseratis. The reason why I usually reference that is because we've taken a hit and the market has gone down as it has in this past couple of weeks or so. To be fair, rather than use that as my opening line, we want to look at the opportunity to potentially see if it's the right time to make some buys or not. And then I'll tell you what I think, and you can tell me what you guys think. Now, I don't even want to call this the elephant in the room because based on your questions and based on comments on our community channel, lots and lots of people are saying, what now with Petrobras? Are you still buying it? Are we going to go broke here? And in a way, I'm going like, hey, wait a minute. Is this Oxy version 2.0? I mean, can it be true? I'm not sure, but I'm doing some homework and I'm going to let you know. And I'll also tell you what I've been doing over the past week or so in terms of my own investments. And I suggest strongly that you do not follow me and you do not copy anything I do, but that you do your own due diligence and make some decisions for yourself as to whether now is a good time to invest in anything or not. Quick snapshot of Petrobras. This is where we closed yesterday. Yesterday was Friday. Closed at $9.37. It's the cheapest super major you can buy on the planet. It doesn't really matter which way you slice and dice it, and there may be very good reasons why it's the cheapest super major you can buy on the planet. The fact of the matter is, you have a $60 billion company based on the current market cap with a PE ratio, a price earnings ratio of less than 2. They don't pop up like this very, very often. So when they do, I am not only interested, but I am also potentially in the mindset of saying, this is the cheapest super major on the planet, and I'm probably going to get me some more. So that kind of sets the stage for where I'm going. But what I'm going to do is give you the most objective overview I can in terms of Petrobras. And we'll look at it from a bullish point of view and a bearish point of view and see where we land. It's trading at its 52-week low, which was almost $9. It's kind of fallen back to match the indices, which is an interesting way to look at it because you can say the Dow Jones, the light blue line, and the purple line is the S&P 500, are sitting over here. And finally, Petrobras has actually crossed even below the stodgy old Dow as an index of 30 of the major corporations in the United States. We're just a few days away from receiving the first tranche of 2 in our dividend payouts. And this would be the number of shares that you hold multiplied by approximately, based on the currency exchange rate, $1.09 per share. So $1 a share times however many shares you held at the dividend ex-dividend date, which was November 22nd. So that's where we are. These are just the facts. And let's go a little bit deeper into the fundamentals and see what Petrobras looks like. The balance sheet, cash and short-term investments, looks pretty good. You guys know I always look at the current ratio, which compares cash and short-term or cash equivalents to current liabilities. Petrobras is looking pretty good. By the way, I'm not making a judgment call here. These are just a matter of fact. The income statement shows its revenue nicely on the up. Now, of course, you can say, yes, but these were at extraordinary high commodity prices, and Petrobras's production has not moved much. So we could expect to see a little dip here, much as we did from 2019 into 2020. Cash flow nicely up as well. Obviously, also remembering that this is based on higher commodity prices, and I'm looking at the full year, which excludes the very, very volatile and of lately very negative 2022. Also looking at 5 years, over the last 5 years. We look at cash and short-term investments. It's more or less stayed steady. We look at the total debt. It's declined a little. We look at the total equity. That's you and me. How much do we own? Is it going up or down? Well, it's going up. Total operating income off the charts, obviously on the back of 2021, which saw commodity prices soaring, and as a result, Petrobras making lots and lots of more money and profit. Total cash from operations, same thing. Total net income, same thing. No surprises there, right? The commodity prices were high. Petrobras's production around 2.5 to 2.8 million barrels of oil equivalent per day. Pretty good. Lots and lots of money. As of today, Tip Ranks has Petrobras at 7. It's a neutral. Now, you could argue, depending on whether you're bullish or bearish, anything to the right of 5 is positive, and anything to the left of 5, being the center, would be negative. So this is kind of positive, even though it's slightly positive, right? The valuation ratio is the most important ratio to look at, is the price-earnings ratio, which is, as I said, below 2. Because it has positive earnings, the price-to-earnings ratio and the price-to-book ratio are the most useful valuation ratios we can look at. But because it has positive earnings, it's more important to look at the price-earnings ratio for the trailing 12 months rather than the price-to-book for the most recent quarter. And you can see, and you'll probably agree, that Petrobras is super cheap. What's going on in the news? A couple of news headlines here I'm sharing with you. The law offices of Frank Cruz continues its investigation of Petrobras. Where there is volatility, there is money to be made, and no lawyer has ever shied away from potentially making money. When you have a class action lawsuit of this nature, the biggest winner, if they can actually get something going, and especially if they can get a judgment or a settlement in their favor, is the law firm, not the shareholders or investors. But if you are a shareholder who suffered a loss, Cruz says, click here to participate. And obviously, this is not a hyperlink. On December 14th, so just a few days ago, Petrobras disclosed that Brazil's National Agency of Petroleum, Natural Gas, and Biofuels had served it an interdiction, which is like an interdict or an indictment notice ordering the shutdown of 37 onshore oil and gas production facilities in the state of Bahia. According to media reports, agency technicians auditing the facilities had found irregularities there. These things happen on a regular basis. This is no big deal. On this news, sorry, I shouldn't say this is no big deal. It is a big deal, but it's not as big a deal as what the law office of Frank Cruz would like to have you believe. On this news, Petrobras' stock dropped $1.01 or 10% to close at $9.13 per share on December 14th, thereby injuring investors. No, that is not why Petrobras' stock dropped by $1 or 10%. So that is just complete garbage. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of truth in that, but that's not the primary reason why it dropped. So why did it drop? Well, Brazil passed a bill that would permit more meddling in state companies. A bill approved, on Tuesday by the lower house of Brazil's Congress would do away with one of the main mechanisms that provided state-controlled companies from protected state-controlled companies from political interference. The bill would cut the quarantine period forbidding people who had worked on political campaigns from working in management at state companies from 36 months to just 30 days. Why is that important? Because if Lula had some kind of prohibition or restriction that prevented him from putting his political appointee into Petrobras as CEO, he would have had to wait 3 years. But because they passed this bill, he would now only have to wait 30 days. But wait, there's more. The quick passage of the bill, which was unusual, still needs to be approved by the Senate and then signed by the president. And this was likely to have a negative impact on the shares of Petrobras, they said. Now, this is more likely to have caused the 10% crash, if you'd like. So when we lost $1 per share, we went from just over $10 to down to $9. For the second week in a row, we lost like 10% on Petrobras on paper. This was more likely to be the cause than the previous slide I shared with you, which was the law office of Frank Cruz trying to figure out if he can make some money with the class action lawsuit. What do our friends, the analysts say? Well, I went to my international account because I have 13 analysts that I can take a look at here. One of them says buy, 3 of them say it's an outperform, 8 of them say hold, and 1 of them says it's an underperform. Nobody says sell. In fact, the majority, so in this particular example, 8 out of 13 say hold it. So if you're not sure whether you should buy more Petrobras, then that is just perfectly fine. You can hold your existing position. If you think you might want to sell your Petrobras, then that would probably be a less good option because you're just going to take a realized loss. Now, sometimes it makes sense to take a realized loss because you can offset that loss against another gain that you took on something else, like Occidental Petroleum, for example. But there's no particular reason right now necessarily for you to think of exiting your position in Petrobras, assuming that you have one to begin with. The analyst from the US on the left side here, I attached less value to research team saying reduce because it's a little bit out of date. This was on November the 4th. New constructs, December 17th, say it's best. Okay, 1 is best, 5 is worst. The street. And this rating since December 31st, 2021. So it's a little bit out of date, but they say buy. CFR, again, old. May 17th, 2021, 3 stars. And right at the bottom there, Ford Equity Research since 12, so December 2nd, 2022, more positive rather than negative. So this one and this one here, new constructs, December 17th, and Ford Equity Research, December 2nd, are relatively new. Ford Equity rating at 1, new constructs rating at a 1. On this slide over here, I have included the NASDAQ just for interest sake, and you can see even though Petrobras has just dipped below the Dow, and it might continue its downward trend a little bit more, it's not quite lined up with the performance of the S&P 500 yet. It's still better, and it's way better than the NASDAQ, which of course is tech heavy. Looking at Morningstar, Morningstar is one of the analyst reports that I really appreciate. This particular report is a 21-page report, so you'll be happy to learn that I have not included all 21 slides, but Morningstar has Petrobras as of December 14th, so just a couple of days ago, at a fair value of $13.10. The uncertainty, of course, is very high. It's a 4-star rated stock. Why is the uncertainty so high? Mainly because of the political turmoil which continues in Brazil, but the company, based on its fundamentals, as I have shared with you in this particular video, are pretty good. In fact, they're very, very sound. Over here, you can see that in the blue, you're looking at undervalued, and Petrobras has been undervalued now for quite some time. Obviously, their fair value at $13.10 is quite an uptick from where it is right now. It's up, that would be up about 40-45%. 4-star rating on Petrobras. Staying with Morningside, what do the bulls say? Petrobras has a low-cost supply that is unrivaled by any other global integrated firm. It has disciplined spending. We've seen that over the past year with the energy, oil and gas companies doing balance sheet repair, paying down debt, etc. So the disciplined spending possibly might continue once Lula is finally sort of in the driver's seat as president, assuming that happens or has happened, who knows. And of course, once he starts appointing his own CEOs, plural, because just in the last year, Bolsonaro had appointed 3 different CEOs, which is never a good thing for a company of the size of Petrobras. You do want some consistency in leadership. Another bullish statement is that Petrobras can capitalize on the growing domestic demand for its refined products. How about the bears? So the other side of the ledger, Petrobras has struggled to increase production. I am not convinced that it necessarily has struggled to increase production. It might also not instead, but in addition, have elected to just hold production, just enjoying the high commodity prices while it lasts, because at the end of the day, the more you produce, the more supply there is, and as a result, perhaps the price would drop. So this is sort of like a mini OPEC type of analogy, where OPEC, as the controller of the commodity price, will also like to control production and output. Government control, while we know that government is very much fingers in the cookie jar on Petrobras, and you bet your bottom dollar that Lula and all his cronies will dive into the cookie jar as soon as they get the opportunity to do so, because historically, that's just what they've done. And Petrobras is sort of the poster child of corruption. In fact, Petrobras might even be as corrupt as the US government. And right at the bottom here, Petrobras will resume its past excessive spending after the victory of Lula in the recent presidential election. That is an interesting comment as well, because as I just mentioned and briefly alluded to government corruption, of course, Brazil is the only corrupt government on the planet, right? So in the case of Lula, however corrupt he is or isn't, is not for me to decide or comment on, because I don't have standing. And all I can do is look at past results and court cases and things like that and say, yeah, there was a lot of corruption, right? And some of it included Lula, whether it was rightful or wrongful. It's like, I wouldn't know, I don't know the what's in the weeds on this one. I only read the superficial propagandist reports the same way you do. What I do know is this, that under Lula, Petrobras, for the more than 8 years, I think it was about 13 years of Lula's previous tenure as president, Petrobras did extraordinarily well. They paid dividends regularly throughout the entire period that Lula was president. And in addition to that, the Petrobras stock went to like 70, 80 bucks a share under Lula. Whereas under Bolsonaro, believe it or not, it kind of just flatlined, but we were receiving nice, hefty dividends. Fair value, I'm still with Morningside. We're reducing our fair value estimate to $13.10 from $16.40. So it's quite a drop. But at the same time, as I said, it's 45% higher than what we are right now at about $9. Our fair value estimate corresponds to the forward enterprise value, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization multiple of only 2.6 times our 2023 EBITDA forecast of $50.6 billion. The low multiple reflects the uncertainty of future oil prices, we don't know, and the risk of government intervention. That one is almost guaranteed. Morningstar is deriving this fair value estimate using a discounted cash flow, which is a DCF methodology or algorithm. The discounted cash flow model is full of assumptions. In fact, you have to assume so many things that a really good discounted cash flow derived value is probably incorrect 100% of the time. So it just is what it is, right? It's very difficult to forecast these things, but sort of in the greater scheme of things, I'm going to go with Morningstar's sort of fair value estimate of about $13 and say, that's reasonable. In fact, what I've done over the past week, as I've shared with you before in a previous video, or perhaps a couple of videos, because I did also do a video on Blackstone Minerals, and I did say that I think I would initiate a buy. I would have liked my order to have filled below $17 per share on Blackstone Minerals. It actually filled at $17 on the nose. So that's my cost basis. So you can look at Blackstone Minerals. It's currently trading, it closed on Friday at about $16.70, 80 cents or something like that. So my cost basis is 17. So if you care, or if you pay attention, you can track my performance or underperformance and see where we go. My cost basis on Petrobras, because of added positions that I closed this past week, is $9.26. And obviously it closed a little bit up on that price on Friday at $9.39 or something like that. Not too worried about that. It may pull back some more. You might get another buying opportunity sort of in the $8 range somewhere or whatever. I'm okay. $9.26, sweet price, sweet deal for a super major that is super cheap. And in that In this case, it is Petrobras. So, guys, those are my thoughts. I try to be as objective as I possibly can. Now you do some due diligence and then you tell me in the comments what you think. And I look forward to interacting with you and hearing from you what you think about Petrobras. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.